Okay.
Okay, good. Let's go. Okay, let's pick up again. Excuse me. Let's pick up again. HaMitzvos Espen. She his HaMusas. It's again the foolish that the Azhara is on the Musas, and that's the Pashut Psukim we pointed out. Shel Yelamed Zchus L'Mesis, that he shouldn't say a Zchus. Va'afil Yodei Lo Zchus, even if he knows a Zchus, Eino Muter Lo Laskilo. He's not allowed to say it. V'lo Yelamed Olav ve'eino Muter Laskilo. There's something here strange in the double, the translation. You have to say, which is in the second person, is referring to the Musas. Which appears Makubal, so the Lav, Ram says the Musas, he says over here. Mishnah Torah also says it like that. The Ramban al Torah seems to say this also Pshuta Shalmik. That at least that it's on, it doesn't, it's not necessarily the Lav is the same, but it's on the Musas. Because he says, from Dvorim Yudimul Test, they were massively Sachmo, ala Kuva Niskeres, Sheish Lo Yimoch, Ki In Shenema, Kashe Yachmol Ish Al Benoi, Hoi Veroisa. So, the point Ramban in Chumash seems to say that the Isa is on the Musas. He doesn't talk about Zchus, but it's al Kuva Niskeres. It's somehow, it's between the Musas and the Mesis. There's certain Kuva. Okay. Okay. Now, according to the Ramban al Torah, we said that the Isser is on the Musas. And I think I mentioned last time, I just want to go and I just started it, and I just want to start and finish it, Lihneder. The Ramban in other places seems to say that the Azhara is on Bezdin. The Ramban in Sherish Hay, Hine lo yirou la'asosei tam bilvad k'divrei Rav, aval meniya v'azhara lebezdin. And in certain cases, and he points out there are other azharas lebezdin, v'chein le'sachmo v'le'schas olav the mesis is the same thing. And the Ramban al Torah in a different place says that mishpotim are shei bezdin, and the ashor is heim on bezdin shalolim noya la noish hamesis, and it's a mania that the bezdin should not refrain from giving an oinish to the mesis if he deserves. The hiskes and mishpotim are Ramban and Dvorim perek zayin posuk yud beis. The hiskes and mishpotim are lahazhir me'ed b'mishpotim, and the ancient ki lo yiyeh am rav kuloi nizma mitzvos kuloi shelo yechtu behen klal. I guess it's a population analysis. They have a large population. You must not have chaytim. Rak b'mishpotim yamidu atera. And the only way to keep the Torah going is to have mishpat. And that's going to prevent the chayte. Okay. V'oid rabim v'chulei. And I'm skipping. V'hizkir kol ele b'mesis le'seveloi le'sishmeilo le'sochas eincholo le'sachmul ischasalo v'yazir le'sishmeilo mibnei hatoosoi v'le'sochas eincho mibnei rachmon shirachmu rake alev al midoinim, but it's bezdin v'ischasa shlishtoik ba'avur tokfoi. He's a strong guy. The years been a mishpachta, and he's a powerful family. So the kitza is interesting. The Ramban Chumash seems to say the lav is on the musas in one place. However, in other places, both in Shurish Hay and in another place in Sefer Dvorim, he says the lav is on Bezdin. So, before you get started, the question is, why is it, how does the Ramban interpret that the lav is on Bezdin? Since it's in the second person, l'chera, it should refer to the musas, as he says in another place in Chumash. So I think I mentioned this last time. I'm not sure, maybe I didn't. In the Psukim, it says like this. Le'soivaloi, v'loi sishme elov, v'loi sochos eincho olov, v'loi sachmo v'schas olov, ki yehoroi tahargenu. Who's that referring to? What's key? You shouldn't do this, but you should kill him. And then it's a yotcha is referring to the musa, tieba rishayna. So what's ki yehoroi tahargenu? So Ramban learned from this that the pasuk is either maybe also going on Bezdin, ki horog ta'agenu. Yotcha is going on the musas, but the horog ta'agenu, that's in Gufsheni, it's the second person. But the horog ta'agenu, which is in third person, is referring to Bezdin. And I guess the going back, that everything back is going maybe on both. So that is the way the Ramban learns the Psukim, and the Ram learns that since all in Pshuta Shomikra, they're all the second person, they're on the lav is on all the lav are on the musas. The problem becomes that the Gemara in Sanhedrin, when it's talking about Bezdin, says the following, Chof Tesman Aleph. Vein toin in the mesis, my shno mesis, Omer Rav Chamo, Bachanino, Mifke. We're talking about Bezdin, ain't toinim, it's Bezdin a toin. Mipirke, the Reb Chia Barabo, Shmili, shiny mesis, the Rachmon Omer, Leisachmo, Leisachasolo. So from Leisachmo Leisachase, we learn a toin in the mesis. So Ramban clearly has a Talmudic source which would support that there's an Issa on Bezdin. And interesting, the Rambam quotes this Gemara, the Rambam Hilchos Sanhedrin. Hamesis ein dinov kishal din in the Forshas. Bichamnin loy esoedim yohaydi edim ve'enotzo chasro kishal ne'erogim v'im yotzem mi beis din chzakai v'yom echod yesh lamed olav choiva machzirun oisoi yotzeh chayiv v'yom echod yesh li lamed olav schus ein machzirun oisoi, which is the Gemara. But interesting is that even if the question is a question, the Ram doesn't mention the lav. So it could be for the fact that Torah has a lav that you shouldn't say tainis with tzorich on the musas with tzorich hamesis for the Thomas hamesis. So we can learn in general that that's the Ritzayin Torah that you shouldn't be turning for the mesis. I assume that happens, and the lav itself might not apply to Bezdin because it doesn't quote the lav here. And that's what the Ram says. He quotes "Ve'ein toin in the mesis u'moshiven bedinoi zokein v'soris u'mishein lo bonim k'dei shelo yirachmo lo she'achzorius al elu shematin es ha'om achrei hevel rachmim hu bo'olim shnemo l'man yoshu Hashem chaloin apoi v'nosan l'chol rachmim," which is the posik at the end of Parshas Nidachas. So then l'cheir it means, it's very interesting because there are three parshas. There's a parsha of Mesis, there's a parsha of Nove Mediach, and then there's a parsha of Nidachas. At the end, it says, Leman Yoshuv v'nosan l'chol rachmim. So I guess the Ram learns it goes on all of them, on all three parshas. Now, l'cheira, Minchas Chinuch makes a point, and l'cheira to double portion, that let's say the musis violates the lav, is melamed zchus. So what does Bezdin do? Bezdin ignores it. So l'cheira wants the zchus, Bezdin has to deal with it. That's the Minchas Chinuch in Mitzvah Tov Samach Ois Aleph. שנמנע מוסה שלא ליתן דובו של זכות, ועל זה נאמר ליסחמו וכולי. And then he says that he quotes that if someone is melamed zchus, he's meshaskin oisei. Kamo be'edim if they're not allowed to lamed zchus. So the Minchas Chinuch says, "Ve'eino move on." Ve'eino move on. Tov is there. The mavur b'shas the Sanhedrin or Barama Perik Hein Luchos Edus dem Ho'ed Oime Sheyesh Lamed Zchus Meshaskin Oisai Hainu Kivin David Balav that you stop from violent lav im Kain Ochinami Aval im Ova Aval Limed Zchus Hein Kan by Mesis Ve'Hein Shom Gabi Edim im Aschus Nira the Bezdin Bevadei Matzil Oisai Afa Pishavu Balav Rak Heim Asum Lamed Zchus Aval Im limdu zchus hadayonim yainu b'zeh poshet v'gam kavonis bal mishnas chachomim kein hu rak l'shoyin tzorch tikun. He quotes this in the name of the Mishnas Chachomim, and he says he also agrees. And even I would just want to add, even according to the Ramban, that the ashora of melamed zchus is on Bezdin. That's only to say the taina, but once the taina is mentioned, so the chayra, or once Bezdin violates the law, they have to deal with it and paskin kafidin atel. The chayra is a little portion. Now, the 21st. As follows. HaMitzvos achas esrim. Yes, he, she is here. HaMitzvos achas v'esrim. He, she is here. Amusas yishtok mechayva sheyeda olav lemesis. So one is that he's not allowed to melamed zchus, and the other, if he has a chayva, he shouldn't keep quiet. The kapach, maybe it's a little clearer. Shalishtok miloi machayva hayodaas loy al hamesis. Mima she'oizer laha'amid geder hageder olav. This hageder is an oynish. And that is Kapach says it's the same. If you remember in the 14th Shurish, he also used the word which might have been translated as Geder, as Oinshim. And here the Kapach translates in Oynish. Mima shiyobi lekiyam oynish olav. Okay. Vu amra yis'ale. Vu amra yis'ale. V'lei sechase olav. Now we're getting to the Pirush Makubal. Uboa Perush. Uboa Perush is Sifri, Piske Peites, Loi Sechase olav. Im ato yodea loi choyve, I ato rashoi lishtoik. So the question is this Pshuto Shel Mikra? The Ramban claims that the Pshuto Shel Mikra is to give Eidus. That if he knows Eidus L'chayva, he has to say it. V'lo yischas olav, mehoyid olav bebezdin. Okay, but it's also Pirush Makubal. Okay, so is it Isa to refrain from saying a zchus, and to refrain from saying a chayva, and there also is that if he knows Eidus l'chayva, he has to be made. So, and that, so the question is what happens if he, according to Ramban, he doesn't violate the law, and he gives Eidus, and then he realizes that there's a chayv that it can melamed on the mesis. So the chayv, the Pirush Makubal, says that he can't refrain from saying it. On the other hand, there's a law in the Torah for an aid to melamed after he gives Eidus to melamed chayv or zchus. The Ram quotes it in Hilchos Eidus in Perek Hey Halacha Ches. Call aid sheheid bedini nefashos. Call aid sheheid bedini nefashos, which makes is one of the nefashos. Einoi mer bedin zeh haneherag din zeh hanerag. He can't say anything to incriminate anyway. V'lo yelamed olav zchus, v'loy chayva. He can't melamed schus chayva. V'imama yesh yelamed of schus mishaskin oisei shenema v'eid loyane b'nefesh lomus bein l'schus bein l'chayva. Umahu zeh shenema lomus plema. Eid sheheid b'nefesh lomus loyane dova elo yoid v'yishtok. And after that, he can't say anything. So the question is, what happens now? He gave Eidus, and he remembers a chayva. Okay, but it's not Eidus, he remembers a chayva. What's melamed of chayva? So now you have a problem. According to the law of Leisachase, he has to say. But according to the law of loyane b'nefesh lomus, he's not allowed to say. So you know about asay the chalesis, whatever it is. But here is the chastira and the tail between two lavs. The shy is, what do you do? So you could say simply, because since the Torah says that an aid can't be melamed chayva, so b'chlal, the lav of Leischase wasn't formulated. It's only talking about a musas who didn't give aidus. It's not like, you can learn two ways. You can steal two lav, what should he do? Or you can say b'chlal, that once he gave the Torah says that a person who gives aidus is not allowed to. So the whole thing wasn't said. The Minchas Chinuch does an amazing thing. That's what I thought you should have done it and closed case. Minchas says no. The mashmos of Minchas Chinuch is that after he said Eidus, the lav still exists. So the shaila is the chastil to lav. What do you do? So the Minchas Chinuch says that it's mutav lav or lav b'shev al taseh milav or kumvaseh. Because if he says it, he violates the lav loyane b'kumvaseh. If he doesn't say it, he only violates the lav of leischase b'shev al taseh. So he should violate the lav b'shev al taseh, not kumvaseh. That's the way he can. It's interesting. Minchas Chinuch, mitzvah tov samach aleph, ois aleph, sholiachish hamusat melamed choyv al hamesis, ois chasel, gam ze b'vram shom, v'gam ken al musas dafka, keniu mitzad asvo. V'imomar al ze, oiv v'balav. V'yayin b'seif mishas achom shom again. Shekosav dahainu dafka, im ein hamesis eid bedov. Aber im hamusas, ein hamusas eid bedov. Aber im hamusas eid bedov, if he gave aidus to muvula kamon, the hamesis l'shnayim hein eidov, oy li echod, shemitztaref hamusas im acher, v'chai gavna, osa l'musas alamet choyd. Ki hu la b'tera, v'eid lo yane b'nefesh. The Eida made also loymas us or chayva. The over belav ayin beramam so per came with the Eidus. The im came. This is the way he says it. So he could have said there's no lav because the Torah said, you're not supposed to say. The im came muta lav or lav b'shevi al taseh lishtoik milavo al lav b'kuvasei. The milamit choyv over gam came belav. Bekum vaseh. Vadvorim burim. V'lav zeh hu lav shein boy ma'aseh. Okay. Das sagt der Minchas Chinuch. It's a chiddush. It's a new thing, like a new thing on halacha glina. See, I don't know if it exists, but the Minchas Chinuch claims that it exists. That there's a steer between two lavim. And one, in the one lav says do and one lav says not to do. So you take sheva al taser as opposed to kum vaseh. Say that. This lav, we don't know that there's malchus. We don't know that there's malchus. And the assumption is no malchus. Ram doesn't mention malchus here. And it's not in the minyan alavim. Shaloiken aleim in Perek Yud Tes al Chadalit. So here the thing is interesting because the lav prohibits dibur. And the question is the dibur ma'isa. If you remember, there are those that claimed, like the Rimagash, that the Ram's opinion is that because you get malchus v'noida u'makayim b'shem avodah zarah, and the Ravid says you don't get malchus. It's really there's lav shein bo ma'isa. And the Gemara says you get malchus only because man of lav shein bo ma'isa. The Ram says you get malchus. Saying you don't know that it's an exception. So there's some claim that the Ram's like the Megash. So you have a problem over here. So here it's dibur. So why shouldn't you get malchus? Unless you say something like that the chefs of the lav is midas, and all these lavim are about have rachmanis on the maces, and the Torah legislates against this midah, and the not the abstaining from melamed of chayv is a demonstration of Achmanis. And therefore, it's a lav shein boy ma'isa, even though if you do a ma'isa, chepsa lav is Achmanis. So then, if you say this, you go back to the old question, or whether there's a steal in two lavnoi, we discussed it before, sheva tasa kum vaseh. If the lav is Achmanis, so if I'm abstaining from a melamed chayva, not as an expression of achmanis, but as an expression as a lav of the Torah of ein lo yaneh b'nefesh, so then there's no isa. So there's never a stealer. There's no conflict between the two lavim. That's what I would just add to explain what I meant before. Okay, now let's get into lavim, which are, let's say, much more difficult to understand. Here, the Ram starts his discussion of lavim that are somehow intertwined. Another lav intertwined with avodah zarah, and this is a lav of tachshitin. HaMitzvos hashtayim v'esrim hi sheshilnu shelo lihonos b'tachshitin shikashtu behen avodah zarah. That a lav is a lav of hano. And the expression that Yechoy made this chefsa is being mainene from it. And it's very different, as we'll see later, from the love of nidachas, or the love of the love of nidachas of loyib yotchum me'acherem, or love loisovi toiv beisecho. You get the impression the love is a love of lekicha. Here, the love be'etzim is a love of ano. And that's the sachmoi, the chemdo. You express chemdo by being nen. The question is that loisachmoi kesef v'zov aleim is referring to sipui or noya v'dizora. The Ram quotes a Sefer. Ubesifra, it's Vayikra, Dibud ben Dovo, Parasha Beis, towards the beginning of Sefer of Chumash Vayikra, Seif Perek Beis, Halachates Yud, Be'aru, the Chachmei HaMesira, the Matiki HaShmur, Shetzipui Na'bad Asur. V'som Cholo, in the Raya doch Liomo Yisal L'Sachmoi Kesev V'zov Aleihem. That's the lav. Yishoiva alav zeh chayiv malchus. So here, the Sifra, which the Ram doesn't quote, he alludes to it. It's a Sifra, which I told you is in the Chova. It says like this: Minaboko. It's a question: which behemoths you're not allowed to be makriv? Minaboko, loheitzi es han'na'bad, v'loidinhu, uma im esnan umechir shetzipuyin tzipuyehen mutorin psulim agabe hamizbeach. Na'bad shetzipuyov isurin or asurin eino din sheyifsol agab mizbeach. So the assumption is that tzipui never also. This moment we don't know where the lav is. Oh chilo, maybe say just the opposite. Uma esnan umechir she'en asurin agab mizbeach tzipuyin mutorin. The tzipuye esnan adach umechir amutal gabe mizbeach na'bad shu muto because his ain boy tfisis yad odom. It's not nesabano. Eino din shi'et tzipuyin mutorim. So then it says Ato bitalto le'sachma kesev v'zov aleim. If you say so there's no lav, because the lav of le'sachma kesev v'zov aleim is talking about a behema nevedes. V'ani akaimenu le'sachma kesev v'zov aleim l'kachto loch b'dover she'ein b'y ruach chayim. Aber bedover sheish bo chayim ohevu muto yutzipuyin mutorin tamaloim amen aboko loitzi es han'na'bad. It's a separate exercise, because the psukim wouldn't know anything. So the interesting thing here is the Rambam, when he has the lav, and he formulates it here, he doesn't say that yesh by ruach chaim or ein by ruach chaim. It's mashma doesn't make a difference. HaMitzvos hashtayim v'esrim he she's hilnu And under any circumstance, the yesh by ruach chaim or ain't by ruach chaim. That's you would assume. And the lav l'sachma kes b'zov aleim applies in both cases. That l'chayra is what the Ram seems to say here in Sefer HaMitzvos. In fact, there's another law in the Mitzvas, which we'll see sometime in the near future, Mitzvah Hashem. Which is As's dob mimeno from Avodah Zarah, which includes not only Avodah Zarah, but also Mishamshi Avodah Zarah. As the Rams there it says boter, but it's explicitly, in the Mina Kotza, it includes Mishamshin. In Mina Kotza, he says, in Loisaseh Chovhei Shel Lahanos Be'Avodah Zarah B'Chol Mishamshelo V'Taku B'Shelo V'Yayin Nisnasich Lo Shenem Leisav V'Tov V'Beisech. So if, and here comes interesting, if you work with the assumption that from the Stimas Divrei Rambam here, that the omission, the lack of just saying anything, that the law of Noi applies in all cases, so then it becomes interesting. What do you do with Noi in terms of Misham Sheho? And what do you need a separate lav of Noi for? So simply you can say is Mishamshin is Soke Avoida of Avodah Zarah, whereas Noi is not a an issue of Tzoke Avodah Avodah Zarah. It's just to mechabed the Avodah Zarah derech yipui. So there's one lav to mechabed the Avodah Zarah derech yipui, and there's another lav, a separate lav of Mishamshi Avodah Zarah and Tzoke Avodah Avodah Zarah. And as they say, never the twain shall meet. If you say that, then one could suggest the following, which is an interesting possibility, that the mitzvah of Ibud Avodah Zarah might be on not only Avodah Zarah, but also Misham Sheho, but may not be on Noi Avodah Zarah. If you look back to Mitzvah Kuf Pei Hey, he shetzivonu la'abed Avodah Zarah uboteho kulam b'chol mine ibud, because boteho is b'chal mishamshin. It's okay avoid Avodah Zarah. However, there's no hechach that the Ram Minyan Mitzvahs of the opinion there's a mitzvahs ibud on Noi Avodah Zarah. That's point number one. Then another point. Those that learned the Ram, the Akdoma from the Rambam to say the Tairis, or the Rambam Hilchos Sha'ar Vois Atuma, know very well that there are 4 tumors in Avodah Zarah. There's Tumas Avodah Zarah itself. There's Tumas Meshamshi Avodah Zarah. There's Tumas Takrovis Avodah Zarah. And there's Tuma Yain Shnis Nasechlo. Okay. So the question is there Tuma of Noy Avodah Zarah? And it's certainly possible to say that Noy Avodah Zarah, the Tumas Avodah Zarah wasn't formulated. It's not one of the four because Noy is not Mishamshin as a separate lav. Okay, so now we are leaving the world of Sefer Mitzvos and we're going into the arena of Mishnah Torah. And the Rambam Mishnah Torah seems to have a different opinion that that you would come to conclude from the plain reading of the Rambam Sefer Mitzvos. If you want, you can look. The Sefer Avodas HaMelech points out that this discrepancy. So if you accept this discrepancy, the Mashmos Divya Rambam is that Noi is only the peculiar case, and Noi basically would have been Mishamshi Avodah Zarah, but the Torah has a lav of Noi in a case where there wouldn't be an Isa Mishamshi Avodah Zarah. Because the Isa Mishamshin is only an Avodah Zarah Neseres. But if you have Avodah Zarah, which is Kalka or Balechayim, She'ebo Tfisis Yad Odom, so the Mishamshin are not Nesa. And the Torah is Mechadesh that in this case, there's an Isa of Noi. Let's see the Rambam, because the Rambam quotes Noi not in Perek Zayin, where he's talking about the normal dinim of Avodah Zarah. He only quotes in Perek Ches when he's talking about Avodah Zarah she'ein bo tfis yad odom. The Rambam in Hilchos Avodah Zarah Perek Ches halacha zayin. Tov she'ein bo tfis yad odom she'na'bad kegoin horim ubehema mechuber lekarka ubehema balechayim ve'ilon af al pi shehan'bad atzmoi muter b'hano ציפויו עושה בהנו, והננה בכל שהוא מהן לויקה, שנאמר ויסחמוי כסף וזוב עליהם. And then, to add insult to the injury, he says, v'chol tzipui avodah zarah harei hein b'chlal mishamsheho. Tzipui is mishamshe. The definition before that mishamshin is soche avodah is not true. Any tzarech of avodah zarah is called mishamshin, and tzipui is mishamshin. But tzipui is a mishamshin which the Torah asks, even though mishamshin in general are mutter. The hainu ein bo tfis yad odom, that the avodah zarah itself is muteres, and this mishamshin called tzipui is also. Other mishamshin will be mutter. So then, I would assume that in Noi Avodah Zarah, of Avodah Zarah she'ein bo ruach chaim, in other words, this chakira, the two options in Sefer in Mishnah Torah don't exist. Noi of Balei Chaim, it should be Noi of Dovo she'ein bo ruach chaim, with the Avodah Zarah is neseres. you can asa the noi mishum mishamshin. You don't need a lav. So then, the Rambam Perek Zayin Alocha Aleph and Beis Avodah Zarah Mishamsher v'Takov Shelo Chol Nase B'Shvilo Ose Bano Shenemar Ose Bano Shenemar L'Sovi Tov L'Secho V'Chol Anene B'Echol Meikol B'Kol Elu Loike Shtayim Achas Mishum L'Sovi V'Achas Mishum Lo Yitmoch Yod Chum Min Acher. So the chayre comes out. Mashmos is that avodah zarah she'eino neseres the separate level is sachmu kesed l'zov aleim, and avodah zarah haneseres might be only like mishamshin. See here then, we can go back to the question before. So, l'cheira, according to the Ram Mishnah Torah, you have to think about ibud and tumas avodah zarah. So since according to the Ram Mishnah Torah, noi is basically mishamshin, so noi of avodah zarah neseres, which are is chayiv and mitzvah ibud. However, you could imagine that noi of avodah zarah she'eino neseres, there's no mitzvahs ibud. Maybe. I mean, I can hear the other way also. But then maybe we understand why the Ram and Mishnah Torah brought together the mitzvahs ibud and the lav u'leisavi biyachad, because the mitzvahs ibud is on both, only on those that there's a lav u'leisavi or cherem. Mitzvah say la'abed avodah zarah mishamsher v'chol nasa b'shvilo shenem ha'ovay tavoy ve'edu es kol makoymis v'nem kim kol tasu lahem avodah zarah u'mishamsher v'takuv shelo v'chol nasa b'shvilo osa ba'ano shenem v'leisavi tov v'secha v'chol anene b'yechol mehem elu lekeshtayim. So it could be. So it's interesting. In terms of, in terms of Mishnah Torah, you could imagine that there's ibud by noi of anybody of yeshboy tfis yarodim avodah zarah and neseres goes mamish b'shamshin. In Periches, you have to ask the question: is mishamshin, but it's not mishamshin on neseres. We don't know that if avodah zarah is not neser, that maybe the noi is not chayiv in ibud. And to make a case for this, you can point out that the Ram quotes the mitzvahs ibud together with avodah zarah and neseres, and maybe that's the pshat that the holy isa of mishamshin of chiyuv ibud is only in avodah zarah ha neseres. But in Periches, where he's talking about avodah zarah she'eino neseres, there's only an isano of noi, a separate lav, l'sachmu kes b'zov aleim. But there's no mitzvah ibud. It's very possible. Then the other interesting question is, what about Tumah? If you remember, the Ram in Avois HaTumah has 4 cases of Tumah's Avodah Zarah. There's Avodah Zarah, Mishamshin, Takoivis, V'yayinshnis Nasachlo. So certainly, in Avodah Zarah, HaNe'eseres, it's a Mishamshin. But even in Avodah Shein and Neseres, he says that it's B'chlal Mishamshin. It's not in the lav, so you can imagine Tumas Avodah Zarah. You could also imagine there's Mitzvas Ibur, but there's no Hecht. But what does the Rambam gain? See, the question you have to ask yourself is a different one. What does the Rambam gain in Periches Halacha Zayin? Is v'chol tzipui avodah zarah harehein b'chlal mishamsher. He already said it's also about no. So I would say certainly this Tumas avodah zarah, maybe there's ibud b'chlal mishamsher. But the question is it really b'chlal mishamsher? There's no malk. Is there malk? There's no malchus loisovi, and there's no malchus loisovi toev v'secho. And so this is already a gray line, but at least you understand the issues. The Ramban also is does something, but just the opposite, because he claims that the lav is only by Avodah Zarah atzmo. And he says that the lav of the Shamshin in general is not like the Rambam, Leisovi, and like Tovi Toiv Beisecho, and Leidbu Yod Chamum Nacherim. But the lav is the lav of Lisachmoy Kesed V'Zov Aleim. The Ramban in Asogis, in Lois Sekuf Sadi Dalet, Aval Misham She'Avodah Zarah, Heim Belav Acher, Tichsiv Lisachmoy Kesed V'Zov Aleim, V'Lakach Toloch. Aval Avodah Zarah Atzmo, I'm skipping a little bit. Yesh Lav Acher, Leid B'Yod Chamum Nacherim, וכולי, אבל משמשין נראה הדבורים שאינם בכלל לא יסוב ויתויב ביסכו, שאילו הוי כן, יוקר עליהם שלוש. משום לא יסחמו כסף וזוב עליהם, משום לא יסוב ויתויב ביסכו, ויסכם כל, שום ליד בעוד מול החרם. אבל לזור בלבד הוא שנקרס חרם, תכסיב כי חרם הוא, ולא אם משמשר ותקודש. Now, this leads into another problem. The question is, Ramban basically says that it should come out, according to the Rambam, you should get 3 malchus for Noy Avodah Zarah. If you're of the opinion, or for Mishamshin, you get 3 malchus. And he proves you should get the malchus Satan Kesef V'Zov as you get malchus for Leisavi Tovesecho, lead B'Yod Merachel. So he says the last 2 lavim only by Avodah Zarah Atzmo. So the question is, what do we do according to the Rambam? Because the Rambam never has 3 malchus also. And how does all this work? The Rambam says Yilka Shtayim. The answer is that the lav leisachmoy b'kesef v'zov is only where leisavi and loyid b'yod mochem don't apply. which is only by noi of avodah zarah she'ein bo tfis yad adam. Interesting. Now let's try to think about and evaluate the Rambam in Mishnah Torah, whether this is actually true. Because you see, if you take the Bechlal Meshamshin seriously in Perches, l'chayr she gets 3 malchus. But the Rambam only says he only lets 1. The Rambam only has malchus of the noi of Avodah Nesech Sheres is malchus mishum Meshamshin, and Avodah Zarah she'ein Neseres is only 1 malchus mishum leisachim kesem azov aleim. So you never have the lav leisavi according to the Rambam with lo leisachim kesem azov aleim. If it's mishamshim Avodah Zarah Neseres leisavi tov v'secho. And if it's mishamshem with the Zohar she'ein neseres, it's leisachim kesef aleim. But you can have in avodah Zohar neseres another malchus for cherem of lo yipi yotchum min hacherem. But this according to the Rambam, mishamshin are also cherem, only in as much they're only cherem in as much as they relate to a chefsa of the Zohar neseres. But avodah zarah is eino neseres, then the mishamshin are not cherem. So then that's why noi avodah zarah she'ein neseres, avodah zarah she'ein neseres, which is perches, you only get 1 malchus. You don't get loisoev tovi tetev beisecho, because it's not mishamshi avodah zarah neseres, and this is not cherem, because mishamshi no cherem in as much the mishamshi avodah zarah neseres. Now, the final question is the Rambam in Perek Yutes of Hilchos Sanhedrin, Halacha Daled, says the following: Hanoide b'shem avodah zarah, the malchus, hanishba b'shem b'shmo, hanene bo, haboine ir anidachas v'hanene mimenu. Doesn't quote anything about noi. But the truth is, the conclusion is, there's only 1 malchus for nene mimenu. You can either have nene mimenu from the avodah zarah or from the mishamshi avodah zarah neseres, or nene mimenu from the tzipui of the avodah zarah she'ein neseres. There's never the 2 trains will meet, and that's why it's only 1 malchus. And this would answer the Lechem Mishnah's kasha in Hilchos Sanhedrin Perek Yutes Halacha Daled. He says, "B'seif makis muvu bi'aram mi'amitzvos shu lav l'sov b'tol l'secha oid mona shom." And he asks, why does it count to 2? Because the minyan mitzvahs le'sachmoid and le'savi are 2. So the answer is, since never the trains will meet, and the malchus is really the same malchus of mishamshin, just a mishamshin that says enas doesn't make a difference. But there's never 3 malchus in avodah zarah. And Mitzvah Hashem, we'll pick this up next week in Mitzvah Hashem more.